This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
India is forming a group that brings together state-run and private refiners to seek better crude import deals, Oil Secretary Tarun Kapoor said on Tuesday, as the country grapples with soaring oil prices. The world's third-largest oil importer and consumer, India depends on imports for about 85% of its crude and buys most of it from Middle East producers. Initially, the group of refiners will meet once in a fortnight and exchange ideas on crude purchases. The companies can form joint strategies and they can even go for joint negotiations wherever possible, Kapoor, the top bureaucrat in the Petroleum Ministry, told Reuters.
Oil edged higher on Tuesday and was near multi-year highs as an energy supply crunch continued across the globe, while falling temperatures in China revived concerns over whether the world's biggest energy consumer can meet domestic heating needs. The Brent crude benchmark rose 34 cents to $84.67 a barrel by 11:11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, 15:11 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate (WTI) futures rose 46 cents to $82.90 a barrel. Prices have been climbing the last 2 months. Since the start of September, Brent has risen by about 18%, while WTI has gained by around 21%.
Moving on to the top news in the energy.
China's coal futures fell 8% to the downward limit in night trading on Tuesday as the state planner said it was looking at ways to intervene and bring record high prices of the fuel back down to a reasonable range. The most traded thermal coal contract on the Zhengzhou Commodity Exchange, for delivery in January, fell to 1,755 yuan and 40 fen, $275, a ton, having touched an all-time peak of 1,982 yuan in Tuesday's daytime session amid a widening power crunch and the onset of cold weather. A shortage of coal, China's main fuel for power generation, has led to electricity rationing for industry in many Chinese regions and dented economic growth in the world's second biggest economy.
Oil production in the largest U.S. shale formation is expected to rise in November but remain below the record high forecast given for March 2020, according to a monthly government report released on Monday. Oil output from the Permian Basin of Texas and New Mexico was expected to rise 62,000 barrels per day, BPD, to 4.8 million barrels of oil per day next month, the Energy Information Administration said in its drilling productivity report. Total oil output from 7 major shale formations was expected to rise 76,000 barrels of oil per day to 8.29 million barrels of oil per day in the month. Natural gas production from the major shale basins, meanwhile, will increase to a record high for a 6th month in a row in November, the EIA projected. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. India's aluminium producers are drawing expensive power from the national grid and adding to pressure on utilities with low coal stock. The Aluminium Association of India, AAI, told Reuters on Tuesday, as state-run Coal India has curbed supplies. A crippling shortage across the country has pushed state-run Coal India to impose temporary supply curbs to non-power consumers, including the energy-intensive aluminium industry, pushing producers to draw electricity from the grid. Indian aluminium producers such as Hindalco Industries Limited and Vedanta Limited largely use power generated from the so-called captive utilities, which are not connected to the national grid, where the companies generate electricity for self-use.
Indonesia is planning to hit the brakes on the export of all raw commodities in an effort to attract investment in onshore resource processing and create jobs, President Joko Widodo said on Tuesday. Indonesia has banned a number of unprocessed ore exports including nickel, tin and copper in a bid to encourage downstream industries, including producing batteries for electric vehicles and aluminum industry, among others. The government is currently conducting a study for the downstreaming of other commodities with a long-term goal of no longer selling just raw materials, the president, who is popularly known as Jokowi, said in an interview in the village of Babatu on Borneo Island.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The U.S. soybean harvest was 60% complete as of Sunday, the U.S. Department of Agriculture said in a weekly crop progress report on Monday, ahead of the 5-year average of 55% but behind the average estimate in a Reuters analyst poll. Analysts surveyed by Reuters on average had expected soybean harvest progress to reach 62%. The U.S. corn crop was 52% harvested, the USDA said, ahead of the 5-year average of 41% but behind the average analyst expectation of 54%. Condition ratings for corn held steady with 60% of the crop rated in good to excellent condition, matching the average estimate among analysts surveyed by Reuters.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.